Wilmington actually has one of the best Civil War sites, and one of my personal favorites actually, of American history really, not just the Civil War, and that's the Fort Fisher State Historic Site. And really cool history behind this. Even if you just want to know some basic history about the Civil War or just want to know the downfall of the Civil War, a lot of it happened here. A really big nail in the coffin of the Confederacy happened at this fort. By that I mean that this fort actually is situated about 22 miles south of downtown Wilmington. And Wilmington during the Civil War was a primary source of imports and income for the fledgling Confederacy. By that, the blockade that the Union was doing during the Civil War was becoming very effective throughout the war of really just crushing port to port. And by late 1864, the last port, which was Mobile Bay, was actually closed down, and the same admiral, David Porter, sailed over here to Wilmington and agreed to do a joint Army-Navy expedition, which in the American Civil War is very rare. It is actually very rare in the 20th century. That was culminated by a little thing called D-Day. Well, at this fort here, in this site, on January 14th and 15th, 1865, you had your so-called mini D-Day, whereas about 8,000 men of Admiral David Porter and Major Terry of the Union stormed this Confederate bastion right here, and basically, within a matter of 2 days, overtook this fort with really heavy casualties, and really a testament of how really the Union needed this fort to be retaken so to really ensure the collapse of the Confederacy. And really after 7 hours of strong fighting, they demolished this, which also coincidentally is, at the time, was the largest sand fortification in the world. Reminds me of an old song. It goes, but on the other side, it didn't say nothing. That side was made for you and me. Woo! So imagine a whole row of Navy gunships in 1865, 58 of them in all, bombarding this island. That's exactly what happened. So it's a lot peaceful, serene today, but just right here, just past this little bite of a beach area, is the remnants of Fort Fisher. So kind of just wanted to show you this vantage point to show you that not all state historic sites, or really parks for that matter, have to be old stodgy, stuffy museums. They can really be a lot of interesting interactive things and just beautiful. Doesn't have to be, like I said, anything that really, God forbid, you have to learn about. So that's kind of one of the reasons I like going out to these places, because you can get a little bit of both worlds. If you do like your history, but at the same rate, you just want to go out, explore, and just kind of find yourself, this is one of the places I definitely recommend. So I'm going to go down the beach a little bit, check it out, and go up right past here about where this tree line is and check out the interior of the fort and just see what made this battle so important. So we're here at the actual Fort Fisher itself. This was the northern wall that was breached by the Union on the day and night of January 16th, 1865, this exact area. So if you wanted to turn back in time, you Civil War buffs, and want to be at this exact spot, I wouldn't be, personally. About 4,000 casualties in the second Battle of Fort Fisher. There was also, interesting enough, a lot of people don't know this, was the first Battle of Fort Fisher, which happened a couple of weeks before that on Christmas Eve, December 24th, and Christmas Day, December 25th, with same naval expedition with David Admiral Porter's squadron coming up and bombarding the fort. However, the first battle ended in failure because the first General Butler actually got his troops on shore, dug trenches, but lost his nerve. And for that, he lost his job and coincidentally, really a very good Army career. But again, second battle, this is where the key, really the most of the fighting occurred. And since this is a really good representation of the really remaining part of the Fort Fisher itself, because really this is the only 10% of the fort that remains, because the rest of it has been lost to sea erosion and sea attrition, because obviously with a fort, you're going to need it on this side right here facing the Atlantic Ocean. To our backs here is the Cape Fear River or Cape Fear Bay. So with the fall of this came really the fall of the Confederacy. So again, really important place. So let's check around a few more areas of it. You know, it's really easy to go to these historic sites and really even just see the remnants of it, and even to read it in a history book, but kind of to combine the two, just imagine where just seeing the battle itself, just watching the Union soldiers mass after mass firing into the earthworks, and really the Confederate soldier just really biding its time in here. And this is a really bloody battle, really. Like I said, about 4,000 casualties just from this two-day conflict itself, and just really makes you think about the struggle of our country's really paid, and just really on both sides, but really more on a basic level. So we're gonna check a little more of it out. We're here on top of one of the earthen mounds that is the remnants of the fort. This is Shepherd Battery, which guarded the Cape Fear inlet part, which is not the obvious Atlantic Oceanside part, but the inside leading up to Wilmington. So you get a really good vantage point of the fort and just really see really just the battle of the 15th and 16th of January of 1865, that just how fierce it was. Just kind of gives you a good vantage point. Just something how quiet nowadays is. This can be really seen as something really horrific. I mean, I can see it in my own eyes, just reading it and seeing the history. But again, even if you're not a history buff, I've said this in previous videos, and other excursions we've done in earlier episodes of, don't have to be a history buff or really know a lot about the area just to go. But I mean, you really just, if you just want pure beauty, you can get a place like this. You got a really good view here of the river itself, and the fort itself is just, it's an amazing place. So even if you just want to picnic or just go to the beach right across the street there, it's a really good place to go. So I think I'm going to enjoy the view here of the river. Bomb-proof. And I'm reading here that, yep, it's official. Fort Fisher State Historic Site kicks ass. Gets my seal of approval. Definitely coming back to Wilmington to film and play around again. I can't wait to eat. God, just this view. Very cool. So we're wrapping up here today at Fort Fisher at the southern end of the State Historic Site, which is the unit called Battery Buchanan. And this was important at the battle itself because this is where the Confederates kind of held their last stand, and where the remaining Confederates came out and did the surrender. So you can see from this really great vantage point here, the Cape Fear River, and right across the way here on our next stop, we're going to go to Brunswick Town / Fort Anderson. I say this because Brunswick Town first was established and burned by the British during the Revolutionary War, and we're going to see some really cool ruins, things like that. So we're going to turn back the clock even more. But what it ties in with Battery Buchanan is that directly after this battle, Fort Anderson was actually a Confederate fort, and so they built this for the defense of the river itself leading up to Wilmington. And this was actually one of the last large forts after Fisher that fell. A lot of people think after Fisher fell, the Confederacy collapsed or it led up to it. Actually, there was about another month going on before Wilmington actually surrendered in the Civil War. So again, we're going to go up there on the next stop, and we're going to kind of tie in all of our histories together with the Revolutionary War and Civil War, really in literally one place. So right now, I'm just going to check out the view, take some pics. Yeah, just hanging out here at the State Historic Site. This has been considered a siege, but really if you want to know a little bit more in-depth history about a siege, what that involves,